What's going on, everybody? This is your man, Big Stu, Scott Stewart, or Professor Stewart, depending on how you know me. And we are back for another edition of Dope People. And as with every episode, we bring the heat, and we are not letting you down in this episode. Today, we have with us the one, the only, the founder and CEO of Black on Black Education, Mr. Jamaal Thomas. Welcome to Dope People, brother. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, man. Looking forward to this.
Oh, absolutely. This is about to be fun, man. This is about to be fun. So let me get into it. I met Mr. Jamaal Thomas through the OSG network. I'm OSG in the book.
Family.
That's right. So Mr. Jamaal Thomas is an entrepreneur who has long had a passion for transforming the educational system. He's had the privilege to visit over 250 schools all across the country and listen to students, educators, and parents talk about how they feel about our nation's schools. The rest of his life, he has already decided to dedicate to solving the challenges that those folks have shared with him in those interviews. He's a budding futurist, dedicated to being a part of a radical, systemic, and institutional change in order to create a more fair and sustainable future for us all. We are thankful for this. He serves on the local school board, which happens to be in the same district in which he grew up in. And this district has done so much for him, and he's grateful for the opportunity to give back. So far to date, his proudest accomplishment of all is being the father of the amazing, come on, help me out with this, Evalaurene Jean-Charles.
Yeah.
Right? He also has a podcast with his daughter, Black on Black Education, and they are committed to working toward bringing about an educational system that provides a personalized, student-centered approach so that every student maintains and rediscovers the love of learning the way they were born with. I just spoke about that this morning. Mr. Jamaal Thomas.
Yes.
This is big, man. So listen, we're going to talk. But before we get into that, I mean, that was nice, right? And I normally say something like, oh, that was cute. But no, I ain't going to do you like that. No, that was dope. But before we get into that, let's let the people know who you are aside from the professional side. And we normally do that here on Dope People with a friendly game of this or that. Have you heard of this or that? Are you familiar with this or that?
I'm familiar with this or that, yes.
All right. So let's just get right into it, okay? Talk or listen?
Listen.
Write or type?
I got ADHD, man. I go back and forth. Like I want to do one day and another the other day. So it really is like a 50-50 proposition.
This ain't this, that, a 50-50.
I will go ahead and say type.
All right. Teachers or parents?
Teachers are my favorite people.
Markers or crayons?
Don't really use either, but I guess markers would be the closest.
Okay. Chips and dip or chips with salsa?
Chips with salsa.
Okay. Reading or writing?
Writing.
Cookies or cake?
Cookies.
Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Day or night?
Depends on what I'm doing. I'll go with day.
I see how you're going, so that's why I started going like, let me round them off. Library or museums?
Museums.
Okay, let's bring this home. Love or money?
Love.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, here's the last one.
Whoever says money, like, does it ever say money?
She was on the show from Carter's daycare. Miss Toya Carter was like, "Show me the money."
I hear that.
She said, "I got love." She's like, "Love is love is love. Like love is everywhere. I got love." She's like, "Show me the money." I
guess I get that perspective.
Yeah. She's the only one to pick money over love. She's the only guest. PWI or HBCU?
HBCU.
Welcome. You are officially indoctrinated to the show. So people, you can this or that. Jamall, what's happening, man?
Oh, man, I'm just here chilling. I'm excited about this conversation, looking to, dig deep in my favorite topic to talk about, which is, how we transform education, man.
So where you from, man? Where you from? And tell us a little bit about, like who you were 6th grade through high school. Let's start with 6th grade through high school. Where you from and what kind of student were you? What kind of young person were you?
Sure. So I live in Greenburgh, New York. When I was in 6th grade, I was going to school in Mount Vernon, New York. Slightly different socioeconomic background between Mount Vernon and Greenburgh. 7th grade, I kind of started to get in a little bit of trouble. My aunt lived in Mount Vernon, so we were doing it like going to school that we weren't supposed to be going to. And once I started, cutting up, my parents was just like, nah, you're going to go to school, up closer to Greenburgh, which the school was somewhat better, but who knows? I guess 7th grade, I was still a little shy, you know what I mean, and stuff. Started to find my voice once I got into like 11th and 12th, and we started running the school. But for the most part, I was somebody who was really super thoughtful. I always, for most of my life, thought that at that period of time, I was what would have been called a terrible student. Recently, my man Chris Emden, the GOAT in terms of this education transformation space, he was like, "Bro, I'm not gonna let you keep saying that, man." He was just like, "Yo, you just were in spaces that had not that were not prepared to help cultivate, your genius." And I was like, "Wow, that's a different way to look at it, and it's helping to inform the way I think about kids in school today."
Yeah, that's bananas, man. I was speaking to a school vice assistant principal today, and I used to say something similar, like well, actually, what I say is I was a halfway decent student on my best day, and that was to your guy's point. What's his name? Let's give him his credit. What's his name?
Dr. Chris Emden.
Dr. Chris Emden. To his point, it's like I realized, because it had nothing to do with my intelligence. I am who I am today is basically who I was as a student, and which is I'm well written. I like information. I can speak well. I'm a clear thinker, right? I'm a critical thinker, and so it had nothing to do with my education. It was more about the teachers being able to tap into my learning styles and all of that good stuff.
Right.
So, did you always? You said you were, we're going to go back to the term that you use, because I think we lay folks, and I go back and forth between being an educator and being a regular guy. Us regular folks understand what that means about being a terrible student, but quantify that for us a little bit. What kind of grades did you get? Were you getting kicked out of school and thrown out of schools versus being in detention? Like, what's a terrible student?
Yeah, just I mean, definitely detention and things to that effect. And interestingly enough, like elementary school, I was actually like humanities and one of the good kids and stuff. But 7th grade, I just started having a lack of interest in what they wanted to teach me. So I mean, I was pretty much a D student, throughout. And I just, I cut class a lot. I didn't get kicked out of school. Definitely a lot of detention. But just I didn't show up to my classes, or I came to the school building. I was in the building, but I just wouldn't show up to a whole bunch of my classes.
Yeah, I didn't cut class. I would cut up in class. but I didn't cut class.
That too. That too.
Yeah, you're right. And I tapped into humor early, right? Wound up, and this is one of the most embarrassing things from my childhood that I still like trips me out to admit that I was class clown senior year. You know, at the time, I thought it was cute. You know what I mean? But then when I realized that this ain't a good look, the class clown, that's no. Who wants that title, right? So,
If you
but
were
that
given
was
space, if you were given space to be that authentic self, if you were given space to bring, you know, your jokes and humorous side to the fold somewhere in the school day, maybe you don't do it, you know, in the classes that you know that you're not supposed to do it in.
so you, and so that's what we're about to tap into, brother. So did you all? When did you first realize that you were going to get into education? How does this D student being in detention get into education? Tell us. Bring us up to speed.
So I always wrote a lot about education. I was always, heavy into personal growth. Like, I'm very self-educated. Like, the books behind me and stuff. Like, I picked up what I wanted to learn and what I wanted to read and what I wanted to engage with, and I engaged with it. And if you told me I had to, I probably was going to be like, nah, I'm not doing it. Just because I was always pretty, rebellious in terms of, I want to do what I want to do. So in terms of like knowing that I was going to be in the business of education, most of my career I actually spent as a salesperson selling different telecommunications to a lot of big financial companies and stuff. I worked for companies like AT&T and things like that, and had like Pearson was actually one of my biggest customers ever. So, they sold textbooks and things to that effect. But I reached a point in time where I absolutely positively despised it, where I can't do this anymore. It's making me sick on a month-to-month basis. Waking up on Monday. And so my last two like corporate America jobs, I got fired from both of them. Not because I wasn't a good salesperson, not because I couldn't get the customer to purchase the material, but when it came to coming back and doing the paperwork that they wanted me to do and all of the administrative work and things, I was just like, it's as if somebody was digging something into my brain, and I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? I would have expenses where I need to do expenses. I got 6 months of expenses. They owe me $10,000, and sitting down and going through these receipts and stuff was just like, oh my God, it's mind numbing. So that was yeah. Yeah, I'll move on to the part around, when I decided for education. I wound up getting a job with after a couple dark years. I wound up getting a job with a company where I ran a marketing campaign for one of the top personal care brands in the world. So when I was visiting these schools, I was driving this tricked out RV, and in the RV was video games, and the kids would get their hairstyle. We would talk to them about hygiene. They would take a lot of dope pictures and stuff, give free products, and they would just come and have this really unique fun experience, outside of school. And this was, all over the country that I was able to go. But, with that interest in education, I was consistently sitting down, talking to kids about, what they thought about school, what was their favorite part, what was their least favorite part. And I would do the same thing with the educators. And then sometimes we would do things that weren't at schools, but that were at various different big venues like South by Southwest and stuff, where I got to talk to parents as well. And no, I shouldn't say nobody. The limited number of people who were satisfied with the way the education system was working, always just was mind-boggling to me. And it's mind-boggling why we can't change this thing that so many people recognize is broken. So one day, while I was on this tour, my daughter gave me a call, and she had heard on a podcast, this guy Akala, he was like, people always talking about black on black crime. Why don't we ever talk about black on black education? And so for her, fireworks go off. She calls me, and she and I would always have conversations about education. She was a really, really good student. I was that bad student. And so the juxtaposition of that would lead to us always having these talks about, what education should look and feel like. And she was just like, Dad, black on black education, we got to do something with this. And we didn't know what it was going to be. But essentially we just started to say, let's curate a conversation, kind of intergenerational conversation. Let's talk to all of the stakeholders. Let's talk to young people. Let's talk talk to parents, let's talk to teachers, let's talk to policymakers, and that's what we did. And so, 93 podcasts later, a couple of virtual conferences, speaking engagements here and there. We've tightened our focus a little bit to focus right now specific on student-centered approaches to education and understanding exactly what they want from the space. And as I said, like it is, I think education, this is the only way that we are going to transform our communities. Our communities will not have the type of growth, development, upliftment that we want if we don't do it better with education. They're never going to do it for us. So, we got to be that change we want to see in the world, and we got to do it now because we don't have any more time. We don't have time to be losing young people, to a lack of education.
Man. Wow. You dropped a few gems in there, man, that I really want to try to tap into. So, after high school, I assume you graduated high school.
I did.
And where'd you go to college?
I went to Westchester Community College. I majored in spades, and I wound up with like 3 credits over the course
Spades and 40 ounces.
Let me do the 40s. At that time, I think it was like Champagne, and I did do a little bit of Mad Dog 2020, which we won't talk too much about that. But yeah, I had a job. I was working for Mecca USA, one of the largest Black clothing lines at the time, and my parents made me go to school. So I was like, okay, you're gonna make me go to school? Well, watch this. I'm not gonna do anything, and so that's kind of how I approached it. And then I found sales. I sold women's shoes. I sold kitchen supplies. I sold windows, vacuum cleaners, and then ultimately I found telecommunications and did that for 18 years or something like that.
Okay. All right. Is any of that you think you would do differently, knowing what you know now? Would any of that? And I know, hey, people say the right answer is no. I wouldn't change anything because then I wouldn't be here. But is there anything that you kind of look back and was like, man, if I had it to do it again, I might do this differently? Specifically when it comes about being a student, middle school, high school, college.
Yes. So, that is the right answer, and it's the right answer because my spiritual beliefs are that everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to happen, and that literally you can't.
It's no sense, right? Right.
Associated with thinking about what changed, but you can learn some things about moving forward. So I mentioned earlier I have ADHD, so that is something where structure, organization. I still struggle with that today at 44, and that's also a part of the driver for adjusting education, because it was I do ask myself, what if the space was better in terms of helping me understand what my mind was like and how it worked in the best ways, and what if the space was built where I got to collaborate with the students, whereas I come up with 100 200 new ideas every single day, and I can't help not doing it. It's almost exhausting continuing to come up with all the ideas, and that's why I just give them away at this point. But there's a lot of students that they don't get new ideas. Why isn't school putting these two together and saying, hey, that person who knows how to execute on it and put it in the packet and package it, right, teaching them how to be the best version of themselves, while me to be the best version of myself. I do imagine what things might have been if education served me in that way. And in terms of me as an individual, I guess I could have worked. No, I didn't want to. I didn't want to. It wasn't.
That was the other part. That's the second. I have 3 questions. The second one is, I heard you say, because authority told you had to do a certain way. Just that alone makes you not want to do it. Sadly, I find that still in my adult life. Like you better off. I'm better off with someone asking me, or to do something, versus telling me I have to do something. Just off of that, I heard you say, like, because people told you have to do it, Where do you think that came from, or what do you think that's about for you? Where, if you're being told to do something, it makes you kind of want to rebel.
Good
And I
question.
think, and Jamall, let me change that question up. I really want to dig into really kind of like, how do you see that among specifically Black boys today? How do you see that parallel, if it exists in your mind at all?
It absolutely exists. If day after day from the time you enter a space, and I'll say this first, and then I'll follow it up. I've always talked about the fact that we have to help students develop a love of learning. And somewhere on some podcast recently, talking to somebody, it dawned on me. It was like, wait, kids love learning. They come to school, and at some point, they stop loving learning. So it's not, we don't have to help them develop. We have to help them maintain that love of learning, and that is how we design the learning spaces. And so I did not like their learning space in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I'm sorry, you asked about the young Black boys.
No. Keep going, because keep on,
Many of them felt like
yeah.
me. They don't like the space. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like I want to be here. And you're just going to keep pushing me to do something that I don't want to do, and making me feel like there's something wrong with me if I don't, as opposed to redesigning the space to work along with me on the things and ways of being that are more aligned with my natural inclinations. And so that's not on. I'm not gonna say it's not on the child. Do you have to ever go along to get along? Sure, that yes, there is some of that is necessary, but nobody changes the world who just listens to what everybody else says. You know what I mean? The world is changed by people who are like, no, hell no, I'm going to do this my way. And so I want to help our young boys and young girls and everyone, parents too. Like it's when we think about education, it's not just a pre-K to 12 thing. It's what's happening prior to school and what's happening after. Like we need to we need to become learning communities, and so there's just so much change that needs to. And I don't want to I feel like I could get on a soapbox with it, sometime, because it means so much to me, and seems so clear. I believe we have all the answers. I don't think it's like we need new answers. We just need to effectively put the answers in that we have into. We need to operationalize them.
The third question I wanted to tap into, I think it's a model. I see Dame Dash do this. And I'm a new Dame Dash supporter, by the way. I don't know why I felt the need to mention that. Actually, I do, because I was in a conversation about this guy yesterday. And of course, we have the affiliation with OSG. But I see something that he does, which is in the involvement and relationship with his kids. I see Principal Ra does this, and then now I'm hearing about you have this podcast with your daughter.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, there's so many nuggets. That's a lesson in itself. That's a conversation in itself. How did that come to be? And really, there's so many layers to this that I want to uncover. We don't have time to get into all of it today, but can you talk about the relationship that you were able to foster, or how you were able to foster this kind of relationship where you and your daughter work together? How old is your daughter?
She's 24.
What did you do as a father to foster that kind of relationship with your daughter?
So I guess I do have to give some quick background, and first is that even I didn't meet till she was 6, so I didn't know if she existed till she was 6. You notice we got different last names. Her mother, God rest her soul, had drug and alcohol issues. We lost her in December. I think it was 2 Decembers ago now. So the short version of the story is that by the time Eva was going into fourth grade, when she was 12, she came to live with me. And so, single dad, with her ups and downs, like any parent, daughter relationship. But I think that what helped things really grow was just the stark difference, from a family perspective on seeing the Sunday dinner and the love and connection that I had in the household. And not that there was any lack of love, but there was just a regularity to our side of the family that she didn't necessarily have, and that helped us to be connected. I also was never a really you have to do this kind of thing, you have to do that. You have to do some things, but for the most part, I gave her, these are your responsibilities. Oh, these are the things that you want. If you take care of these, then you can have these. And that was kind of the overall dynamic. And then at the end of the day, she's just an amazing individual. She's probably the strongest person I know. And I know people say stuff like that about their kids all the time. But, if we did have the time and we dug into, what she has been through and, and continues to, maintain, full-time job and executive director, teacher. She's a teacher in the South Bronx and executive director of Black on Black education. Before you said, I think I had co-founder on my bio. I need to change that because I'm the chairman of the board now because we are a registered nonprofit and that's how we're operating. But yeah, she made it easy. The last thing I'll say there is because if there's any other fathers out there listening, or parents in general, I think that understanding that we don't control our children. I mean, we get to be guides for our children. We don't get to control them. And when you do try to control them, I've seen way too many people lose their kids as a result of that. Or maybe you keep the relationship and everything is okay, but as soon as a kid is out of your sphere, they go and they do whatever it is that they want, and then they do it without knowing how, why. So even I talk 3 times every day, you know what I mean? She morning, before she goes to bed, lunchtime, like we've maintained a healthy relationship. Sometimes it's about business and things, but she values my opinion, I value hers, and we really we operate as best friends. So yeah,
bananas, man. I have 3 daughters. And you're speaking to me, and that's going to be another conversation. I think I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but that I'm sure I know for a fact that strikes a chord with a number of fathers, Black fathers, making sure that they have solid, nurturing, loving relationships with their daughters, specifically with their children, of course, but Black fathers and their daughters. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your transparency in that. Let's dig in to why we're here.
I'm gonna say something else real quick, and just because it's in this spot, I did years ago my only musical single, 10 Dad Commandments, a little riff on Biggie's 10 Crack Commandments.
Jamal, man, you said you did a song, you recorded a song some time ago, and it's called the 10 Dad Commandments.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna play a little bit of that song right now. Let's check it out.
Cats can't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's the 10 Dad Commandments. What? Cats can't tell me nothing about this being a joke. Nah, can't tell me nothing about this being whack. Man, it's for all the dads out there winning, the ones struggling but still up to date on their child support. And happy Father's Day, my dudes. I've been in this game for years, raising my daughter like a man should do. There's rules to this here. A couple things I want to share with you. A step-by-step booklet for you to get your kids on track, not the courts on your back. Rule number uno, make sure your kids do know how much love you hold, cause you know consistency better be your legacy. Keep their minds on track and their hearts intact. Number two, respect for their moms is the move. Don't you know mom and dad's alliance is triumph? Take it from your highness, cause I done seen mad chick take daddy's whips, chips, and dip. Number three, it's to help them see the possibility, the things that they can be. We gotta let them dream. The imagination with thoughts is racing that they creating what's gonna change the nation. Number four, know you heard this before. A grateful heart leads to a life or more. Number five, put the words I can't to a rest. Kids gotta know they blessed and then they'll do their best. Number six, doing it by yourself, get it. It takes a village to raise them right, don't forget it. Seven, this fool is so underrated. A lifelong love of learning is what's gonna keep them earning. Money and dumb don't mix, so read books, they're good looks. Start them early and they gonna be hooked. Eight, don't keep too much weight on you. Exercise with your kids, build their bodies up too. Number nine should have been number one for me. If you can't see yourself with her, why she carrying your seed? Leave a woman stressed, she ain't trying to listen. She'll be sitting in the courts, waiting to start getting. Number 10, a strong word called passion. Strictly for live men, not for freshmen. Teach them about their purposes, the thing they gotta know. If they follow that, best believe they gonna grow. Follow these rules, kings and queens, you gonna raise up. If not, hoes behind bars, they can wake up.
Behind bars, they can wake up. But we don't do our thing right. But when we do our thing right, it's in colleges that they exist. It's businesses that they create. It's love that they share. It's gratitude that they learn. We gotta raise these kids right, Dad. I'm about that life for you. If you ain't seen your kid in a while, if your that kid ain't called you on Father's Day, you call them. Good dads unite, man. I taught my daughter something, you taught your daughter something. We can learn from one another for sure. Big shout out to all the grandparents out there who's raising kids like they're their own. Of course, I gotta dedicate this to my not so little one, my bae. The kids in the mentorship program I'm a part of said bae me before anyone else, so that definitely classifies it. Gotta give a shout out to my pops. Love you, Dad. All the father figures out there doing your thing. We appreciate you. Keep doing your thing. Keep doing your thing. Happy Father's Day, y'all. Peace.
That's heavy. That's heavy. That's heavy, dog. That's heavy. That's heavy. Shout out to that. That deserves a clap. That deserves a clap. Man, that's heavy.
Video coming soon. Video coming soon.
Wow, yeah, man. Even at the end, like to shout out grandparents and to shout out your own dad, man. And it's touching, man. We need that. We need those rules. We need to refute them or agree with them or to toss them around or remix them and all of that, man. We need these conversations in our community. So hats off to you. Salute to you for coming up with that, brother. That's dope. Very, very dope. All right, so let's dig in. This show is built around 3 essential questions. And I want to start with the first one. So what's dope about education to you? What's like working in education for you today?
I think there's a lot of the people. There's a lot of incredible educators, a lot of incredible teachers, people whose heart is all the way in it, and they are not going to, let our babies down. So that the people who are on the ground floor connected with young people, some of the nonprofits doing incredible work, tribes and families like OSG coming together to be of support for one another. There's some amazing people, and I think increasingly what would be considered a critical mass of people who are all taking their talents and treasure and saying that we're not going to continue to let this not work. You know what I mean? We're going to make this work, and we're going to make it work now.
What kind of keeps you up at night or frustrates you the most about education today?
The fact that from a policy perspective that we can't shift and move and change as fat quickly as we need to. The fact that our communities are so very under resourced, and that people don't, when they hear words like equity, they can't understand that if you grow up over here and you grow up with this being put in, that sometimes that means these students need more financial support than these students over here, or at least as much financial support as they do. And that we've made decisions that I don't see if it could ever change. Around funding being done on the local level, people will go up in arms around changing that. So even if you operated with first principles and you made a decision like, how would we do this if we started all over? I don't think that we would do it that way, but it's important to a lot of people, so you're not going to be able to change it. That means that it's up to states and or federal government and or some kind of connection with the private sector to say, we are going to fill in the gaps to ensure that all that intellectual treasure, I don't like the term human capital that much, because I feel like but I'll use it for lack of a better term. Like, we have brilliance and genius spread throughout our communities, and we are not nurturing it in the way that it should be nurtured. And that means that the world is not getting out of our communities the next Bill Gates, Robert Smiths. I grew up with the cats from Earn Your Leisure. They're doing amazing things. Like, we have much more of those individuals in our communities that just don't get the opportunity to share their gifts and genius with the world, and that has to change. And I do literally lose sleep at night sometime if I'm too late writing about this and stuff like that. Like, some of those things will ruminate as I try to go to bed.
Yeah. Wow, that's huge. That's huge. So if you could do education your way going forward, what would that look like?
So when the pandemic started, everybody who was willing to listen, I would sit and talk to people and say, like, shame on us if we go back to the exact way things were, prior to the pandemic. And it seems like largely that's what's happened. Now everybody got a Chromebook. They didn't have no money for everybody to have a Chromebook before, but now everybody got a Chromebook. So one, it would be not waiting until the next travesty, to start to make changes. So Black on Black education is we're doing like a participatory action research program with young people. So it would be finding ways to expand what we are currently doing in terms of sitting down and talking with young people, asking them what they're curious about, what challenges they want to solve in their communities, what things that they want to be able to focus in on, finding ways to do a much better job of assessing, like, oh wow, I see this little kid. He's showing a whole bunch of interest in like he's strong from an emotional perspective. Maybe we need to guide him in the direction of being in the social work space, and then making social work a place where it's not like you gotta you not poverty, but where you can make an incredible wage. So looking at what our community needs, and I'll use the social work example again, like, our community can use a significant amount of social work. Imagine young people developing the emotional intelligence along with the strategies that allow them to go and sit down with people who are struggle with addiction and help them to change their lives. Imagine us focusing in and nurturing students in a way that allow them to do that. This is what you call healing, our community. So everything would be much more student-centered, much more project-based, so that you're engaging in the project that you want. It would be choose your own adventure style. Right now, all the rage, and I've been playing with it a whole bunch, is this artificial intelligence called ChatGPT. It's an amazing tool, and everybody who's saying, "Oh, it's going to kill the essay and this," it should kill it.
I love it.
These tools are powerful tools that if you start to understand them, the people who learn how to use these tools are going to be the people that command tomorrow. So not telling our kids, no, don't use it because, we need you to write this essay. I'm not saying don't let our kids become good writers, but people are going to take these things, the APIs associated with them, and put a different skin on top of them. So now I have the AI as an educator. The kid has it. We're communicating through it. The way that we're communicating through it is helping me to assess what the student is most interested in. It's helping me to assess where the student is struggling, and what I need to help with. It's helping me to assess, because this is their interest, these are the students I should put together to work on a particular thing. Like we talked about before, these guys come up with all of the fantastic creative ideas. These guys are more administrative. I'm not making one of them more important than the other, but I'm putting them on a team. I'm showing them how to work together in the same way that Google shows people how to work together, in the same way that these large organizations show people how to connect and collaborate. I'm showing them how to do that starting at age 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and to do it in a way where it's where things are not, it's not about debate, it's about discussion. It's not about, oh, I want to win over you. It's about how do we win together. So creating a place where it's not closed, it's open from the 24 hours if it has to be. Find the funding to keep it open all the time, so that all of the resources that are required for our larger communities can be taken care of. Where you can go if you feel like you need to quote unquote fix your life, if things are all jacked up, where you can go, because the resources are there in that school building. It's a sacred space that everybody wants to be a part of, and that nobody disrespects, because your mama's in there, your auntie's in there, and all of your nieces and nephews are in there. So creating a much more familial, doing it the way we used to do it back in Africa. Like it's we are in this together, each one teach one. That is what the future of education needs to look like. And again, it doesn't need to look like that 10, 20, 30 years from now. We do not have time for that. Civil society is not promised. This whole world can fall apart. We are operating on a string. Our young people need to learn how to talk to young people. I'll add that. Yes. Connections between our schools and the other socioeconomics. So Scarsdale is connecting with Harlem. Harlem's connecting, and they're working on projects together too. We're taking the walls of the school building and the classroom and saying, let's break these walls down. Because if you get kids to work together at 10, 11, 12, then when one of these guys is a cop later on, he's not beating this kid upside the head because he had a friend in a place and he learned about this person. So this is not just something for our young Black children. This is something for everybody. And the last thing I'll say in this regard is, if we do, some of the things I'm suggesting, and it could sound oversimplified, but if we do these things, that us as a country, the United States of America, we have a ridiculous opportunity. If we can actually, we call ourselves a melting pot. I've heard somebody say we're not really a melting pot, we're more like a potluck, where everybody's bringing their things, to the table. But if we can really be that potluck where we start to understand and how to connect, and I know my company is called Black on Black Education, and I'm going to stand for that all day, every day. But that don't mean I don't want to connect with white folks and figure out how, we can help them, they can help us. If we can do that here in the United States of America, as the world continues to get smaller, globalization continues, and we start to work with people in Africa and Asia, because voice translation is so easy that I can say whatever I'm saying in the phone and it translates immediately to the other person. We're going to work with those people, but we won't be able to work with them if culturally we can't get past the fact that the way that I see it is not the way that it is. The way that I see it is only the way that I see it. And so when our young people start to develop that, then they'll become, the leaders of the country. Because currently our leaders are doing a piss poor job of showing us how to engage with one another. Let's show young people how to do it in school so that they can start to boot the guys out who only want to fight and argue and bring people in or become people who want to create solutions to make the world a better place.
Man, Jamall, you on fire today, dog.
Listen, man,
You brought a lot of heat today. Tell us about Black on Black education.
Yeah, so I mean, as I mentioned before, we started with this, how do we change education? It's just like this big, huge thing. And we felt like we were doing stuff and the stuff was good, book clubs and anti-racism and teacher this and like we were doing stuff. Now, we're laser focusing in as part of the nonprofit, and we're going to do some of the other stuff, and we're going to, we'll expand. But right now it's student-centered approaches to education. We are launching something called a student action board. And we say that is where education innovation starts. And so Eva, in her school in January, she's starting the very first one. Right now, we're working with a group of youth advisors. There's 7 young ladies in the South Bronx who are incredible young people. Like, I get to talk to them on a regular basis. They're amazing. And they are writing a curriculum in conjunction with us on, we have, some friends who are writers. They're writing a curriculum in conjunction with us for how to research what young people want from education. So Eva will have one student action board, and then we'll have the curriculum. Going into 2023, 2024, we want to have 10 student action boards. So that we'll take that curriculum over the summer. In addition to our summer program, which we're gonna run, we'll have an intensive that teaches that takes a teacher fellow and a student fellow, puts them together, puts them in charge of a school, hands them the curriculum, and lets them, whether it's in an after-school program, whether it's in some people get to do extra credit during the school day, however they want to form, they walk people through this process where young people are going to ask other young people in their area. We're focused in on New York City, but once you open these things, it starts out, it starts to spread, where people are going to ask their contemporaries, what is it that they want from education? What are they curious about? How do we change our community? And other questions. I don't want to. The kids are going to come up with the exact questions. They'll have heard us talk about it, but they're going to come up with the exact questions. After the research project, and I shouldn't say after, because this is going to be an ongoing thing. But we'll do a Black education report on a year-to-year basis in conjunction with the students, and each student is going to have some type of project, whether it be a podcast or a video or something. They'll do these different projects to advocate for those changes, and we'll come up with form letters that go to policymakers. We'll help them communicate directly to their schools to say this is what we want. And then so that's the education innovation advocacy, and then the last part is going to continue to be youth development. I mentioned that we'll have a summer program next year. I speak at schools as of right now, and have some programming around that. We do a talk called Creating the Future, a walk down technology lane, and I bring in like old typewriters and beepers and all these old communication kind of tools, let students tinker with them, and then talk to them about what the future of communication is going to look like and how they can take advantage of utilizing those things to change their schools and change communities. So that's the kind of one foot in front of the other, what we are doing doing today. And I'm happy to say, like, this has been our top fundraising month ever. We had a top single day of fundraising on Giving Tuesday. More and more people that we get an opportunity to get in front of and talk to about this, they see they see where it's going, and so we want to continue to talk the talk, walk the walk, and find out how to continue to do it better. From all of the various different super bright people that we get to connect with, like yourself, like the other folks from the OSG fam. So the students are excited, we're excited, and that's our focus.
Huge. Where can people connect with you and Black on Black education?
Sure. We are on all the social channels. Primarily IG is the busiest one, but IG, Twitter, TikTok. On TikTok, we actually have a couple of students who are vying to say, "Look, let us take over the TikTok, and we'll keep that focus, aligned with everything we talked about." So it's Black on Black Ed, at Black on Black Ed on all of those. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn at Jamaal Thomas. But then the website is www.blackonblackeducation.com. That's www.blackonblackeducation.com. There's a contact form. So if anything here resonated with you, please don't hesitate to reach out. We love engaging with other stakeholders in the space and other people who share the passion for transforming education.
Well, I was just trying to keep up with the notes that you were giving, man. Final thoughts. Anything that you want to make sure people, could be something you've already said, you just want to reinforce it, or something that we haven't quite talked about yet that you want to make sure you get off your chest? I'll turn it over to you.
I think the biggest thing is that we don't really have time to tinker. I said civil society is not promised, and I meant it. Like, all of it can fall apart. All of it can fall apart at any time, and none of us want to live in that world. So we have got to create a beyond critical mass of people who are fixing all of the ridiculous challenges that we have. I often say, like, we live in the best of times and the worst of times. Like, that's really what it is. We some of these tools that are emerging from a technology perspective are amazing, but they're also incredible. Like, the power for growth and assistance to humanity is huge, but the power of destruction is there as well. And what's going to determine whether or not it's destruction or growth and development is the people who have these things in their hands. And the more people that we can get on a trajectory where they know that they matter. They know that their friends and family matter. Like, you can't, when you really know somebody matters, you cannot blow their brain out. Like, you can't do that when you know that somebody matters. And you know that people matter when you are shown that you matter. So for all of the educators out there, make sure, this is why it's so important, not to say that white people don't know that our kids matter, but it's so important for kids to have Black teachers in front of them, make with a hug, somebody that looks like them, that makes them fully understand that what they do on a day-to-day basis, like, it matters in the broader, even though they're a little small part of this macro, that what they bring to the table is something that we value. So yeah, it really is that there's no time to waste. And so if you got a book, write it. If you got a podcast, start it. If you feel like you can't, you can. It is, and if you believe you can't, give me a call and I'll help you to understand. That you can, because it's. We don't have no more time, man. We don't have no more time. It's the time is now for us to come together and make our communities into the urban havens that they can be. There's an educational renaissance happening. Come on, let's be a part of it.
Word. Man, you came through with heat. Jamaal Thomas, yo.
Thank you, Stu.
Jamaal Thomas, board chairman for Black on Black Education. It's going down. We love to have you come back on the show, man. There's some more conversations that we could have. So we'll get you scheduled soon to come back and follow this conversation up. For everybody listening at home, be sure to check out our sponsor, Genius Lab Chicago, where they teach young people or expose young people to careers in business and technology by teaching entrepreneurship and computer coding skills. That's geniuslabchicago.com. Check out our sponsor. Hey, listen, Brother Jamall, man, you didn't need me to tell you this. I saw this in you, which is why I invited you on the show. But you are officially stamped dope people, dog. You are dope people, dog. You
Thank
are
you.
dope people, man.
Takes one to know one. Takes one to know one. Man.
Hey, I see it in you. You dope. You dope, man. And so we definitely want to thank you for being on the show today, man. I appreciate you. And to everybody listening, you've now been exposed to another dope person, Mr. Jamaal Thomas. You already know what it is. Until next time, everybody. Peace.
Peace, peace, peace.